Surprise Island, based on the movie Surprise Island. The book is by Gertrude, Chandler, Warner. Today is the best, said Benny Alden. School was over. It was finally summer. I wonder what Grandfather has planned, said Henry. He said he had a surprise. Benny could not wait to find out. Race you, he called, running ahead. There's Benny. Henry, Jessie, and Violet couldn't wait either. So there's Henry. They ran to catch up. At home, Grandfather was in the garden. The children had not always lived with Grandfather. They had once lived in a boxcar. That was where they found their dog, Watch. Living in a boxcar had been a big adventure. The Aldens loved adventures. Do you remember the Aldens? Yes. The children gathered around Grandfather. Tell us, Benny said. It's summer and we all want to know, said Jessie. Grandfather smiled. He waited for the children to sit. Then he told them the surprise. Our family has an island, he said. I stayed there in the summer when I was a boy. Now you can too. We can go see it this afternoon. The children had many questions. Will we be alone? Asked Henry. Grandfather shook his head. Captain Daniel lives there. He takes care of the island. What will we do? Asked Violet. I used to explore, swim, and fish, said Grandfather. Can Watch come? Asked Benny. Of course, Grandfather said. Jessie made a list of things to bring. They all packed and got into the car. A new adventure. So the children are excited about going to an island, and they get to explore, swim, and fish. They're going to meet Grandfather's friend, Captain Daniel. At the dock, a man was waiting. Is that a pirate? Asked Benny. Grandfather laughed. That is Captain Daniel, he said. He is a fisherman. All aboard, Captain Daniel called. Soon the boat was on its way. The boat skimmed across the water. Before long, Henry pointed. There it is, he said, our very own island. Benny started to wave. What are you doing, Benny? Jessie asked. I'm saying hello to the island, he said. Everyone laughed. They all waved to the island. There was a small cottage on shore. Is that where we will stay? Asked Violet. That is Captain Daniel's house, said Grandfather. You get to stay somewhere special. He led the children up the hill. At the top was a big red barn. Benny's eyes got big. We get to live in there? He asked. Grandfather nodded. The children rushed inside. Benny found a horse stall. We'll sleep in here, he said. Jessie found a stove. We can cook here. So, Benny found a horse stall is what is a horse stall? Do you think it's a place where horse stays? Violet went upstairs. Let's make crafts up here, she said. Well, do you like it? Asked Grandfather. Do you want to stay? We love it, said Benny. The children agreed. They would stay for the summer all by themselves. Oh, so they want to make crafts and arts, and they're going to stay there by themselves. In the morning, a young man came up the path. Hello, he said, I'm Joe. I work for Captain Daniel. Joe showed them a garden they could use for food. Then he said, if you need anything else, just let me know. Violet watched as Joe walked away. She knew him from someplace, but where? The afternoon was warm and sunny. Benny was excited to explore. Let's dig for treasure, he said. The children walked to the beach. A spurt of water came up from the sand. What was that? Asked Violet. There was another spurt. Clams, said Henry. The children started to dig. Soon they had a whole bucket of clams. Down the beach, the children found another surprise, a raft. Henry and Jessie swam out to it. The water was cold, but the raft was warm. Henry lay in the sun. This is the best, he said. But Benny did not think so. He stayed on the beach with Violet. I like warm water, he said. Benny sat in the sand and picked at some seaweed. What do you have there? A voice called. Benny looked. It was Joe. Watch this, said Joe. It spreads out big when it gets wet. Joe set the seaweed in the water. Then he caught it on a piece of paper. It's beautiful, said Violet. Benny smiled. The beach wasn't so bad with Joe around. After swimming, Jessie found a pretty shell. Benny showed Jessie his seaweed and a purple flower. That gives me an idea, said Henry. Let's make a museum. Great idea, said Violet. The children walked up and down the beach. They found all kinds of neat things to put in their museum. That night, Jessie cooked clams for supper. Then they started on their museum. Joe came over with a stack of books. He helped the children find the names of their objects. My flower, said Benny. It's a beach pea. That's right, said Joe. He turned to Jessie, and that is a slipper shell. Joe seemed to know something about all the objects they had found. The next morning, it rained and rained. No exploring today, said Jessie. She made lunch with vegetables from the garden. In the afternoon, the children worked on their museum. Violet pressed flowers. Henry cut out paper birds. Jessie sorted shells. I don't mind the rain at all, said Benny. Well, so far, the Alden's children have been exploring the beach and the island. And now they have a museum called Alden Museum. Day passed. The museum grew. Then one day, Violet said, let's go all the way to the end of the island. Yeah, Benny said. Maybe there's a treasure there. The children walked and walked. Finally, Benny stopped. Look, he said, a mountain. It was actually a big pile of clam shells, lots of shells. I wonder how it got here, said Violet. It's a mystery, said Jess. The children came to the end of the island, but Benny still ran ahead. Over here, he said, a cave. Benny crawled into a dark hole. Henry, Jessie, Violet, and Watch followed. As they went, the hole got bigger and bigger. Wow, said Jessie, it's like a little room. I think Watch found something, said Henry. He picked up a sharp stone. Watch had dug up. It looks like an old tool, said Jessie. I wonder where it came from. Another mystery, said Benny. Suddenly, Watch barked from the front of the cave. The children turned around. Water was coming in. Let's get out of here, said Henry. The children crawled back through the hole. Water rose around them. A big wave is coming, said Henry. Hold on. Jessie grabbed onto Benny, and the wave passed. Then she pulled him onto the rocks. That was close, Benny said. Good thing we have such a good watchdog. Henry nodded. Let's go dry off. So they went inside the cave, and what happened? Yep, there was water coming up, a big wave. And so they were swimming, right out here. It's a good thing they know how to swim, because now they're ready to dry off and go to another part of the island. Along the path, the children met Joe. He brought them to the cottage to warm up. Henry showed Joe the rock tool. This is very old, said Joe. Can you take me to where you found it? When it was safe, the children went back to the cave. Joe brought along a brush and a camera. He showed them how to dig carefully. I found something, said Jessie. Me too, said Violet. They held up two small objects. Is it a treasure? Asked Benny. No treasure, said Joe. Parts of a bowl. I think people lived on this island long ago. That explained my tool, said Henry. And the clamshell mountain, said Benny. You help us solve our mystery. Joe, said Jessie, what a neat surprise. But an even bigger surprise was yet to come. So they realized that they found tools in the cave, and because of the clamshell mountain, they're thinking that long, long ago, some people live in this island. Okay, they live in this island, and they probably ate a lot of clam as well. As days passed, the children tried many new things. Joe taught Violet how to play the violin. Henry taught Benny how to fish. Jessie learned how to sail. The summer was full of adventures, just like they had hoped. Then it was Benny's birthday. Time for grandfathers to visit. Joe and Violet played Benny a birthday song. When they were done, there was a knock on the door. Grandfather, said Benny, but another man walked in. The man was looking for Joe. This is Mr. Browning, Joe explained. My boss. Boss? Asked Henry. I thought you worked for Captain Daniel. Joe told them a secret. He used to work at a museum. That's how you knew so much about our museum, said Henry. And about digging stuff up, said Benny. Why did you leave the museum? Asked Violet. I got hurt, Joe said. I needed to rest. But why did you come here? Jessie asked. Well, I came here as a boy, said Joe. You see, this is my island too. I'm your cousin. Isn't that cool? Joe is actually their cousin. Well, that's it, she said. I remember now. I saw you in grandfather's pictures. Why didn't you tell us, Joe? Jessie asked. Joe said he and grandfather did not always get along. He was afraid grandfather would be mad he was on the islands. No way, said Benny. You're the best. They would soon find out what grandfather thought. Grandfather arrived that afternoon. The children met him at the dock. I have a surprise for you, he told Benny. Grandfather pulled out a present. No, I have a surprise for you, said Benny. Benny led grandfather up the hill. When they got to the barn, Joel walked out. Joe, said grandfather, I'm so happy to see you. Joe smiled. I'm glad I came back. At dinner, the children told grandfather everything. It sounds like you and Joe have had quite the summer, said grandfather. We have, said Benny. It's too bad we'll have to leave soon. Grandfather and Joe talked quietly. They made a decision. Joe was going to live with them. I can't wait to show you the boxcar, Joe, said Benny. So now grandfather and Joe decided the children would continue to stay in the island. Soon summer was over. It was time to go home. The children sat on the beach one last time. Violet said this place was full of surprises. That gave Jessie an idea. That's what we should call it, she said. Surprise Island. Benny sighed. I never did find any treasure. No, asked Joe. I know I did. My family. So, do you remember what they're going to do? Joe is going to live with them, and they will come back and visit the island. And then they're going to go back to live in the boxcar. So the treasure of this story is family. The children packed their things. Goodbye, Barn, said Jessie. See you next summer. They all got on Captain Daniel's boat. On the way home, Benny looked back. He waved. Everyone smiled. They all waved goodbye to Surprise Island. The end. The Boxcar Children.